Going back to Roe v. Wade, there was a federal protected right for abortion on grounds the 14th Amendment provided a right to privacy and due process. Alito, in the majority opinion, is saying, no, there is no specific reference to abortion in the U.S. Constitution, and that also there's no implicit provision that protects it. And therefore, you can also take that one step further, and Justice Thomas appears to be in his concurring opinion that, well, there's no specific reference to same-sex marriage in the Constitution either. The same goes for contraception. We can't necessarily say that this conservative court won't continue to move in a similar direction on those other cases.
Yeah, give us some perspective on today and why now. Roe versus Wade's been precedent for 50 years. Why did the court address this now?
It's the change of the makeup of the court. We've had a conservative-leaning court for decades, but we had Republican-appointed justices, conservatives like Justice Kennedy and Justice O'Connor, who were disinclined, we knew, to strike Roe v. Wade. And then when we had changes in justices, particularly the three appointed by former President Trump, opponents of abortion thought they had a much better chance of challenging it, and so politicians in those states moved to pass laws, including Mississippi. That was a test of Roe v. Wade, and that's how this all came to be.
How many times, Craig, has the court overturned its own rulings, and is that very unusual?
It's unusual in the scheme of things, not many, but there have been around 300 cases through history, so it is not unprecedented, and there certainly have been some striking cases. Dred v. Scott, for example, comes to mind in the 1880s, for example, that unbelievably ruled that African Americans have no rights that a white man has to respect. There also was the Pace versus Alabama ruling, which determined unbelievably that interracial marriage was illegal. Thankfully, that was struck down. That's a striking example, so there certainly is some history to overturning cases. Now, the next question here is whether or not the Supreme Court will continue to move in this direction and also overturn other more recent rulings from the court. For example, the ruling that legalized and established the right to same-sex marriage in this country, because there was a ruling in the 1970s out of Minnesota that went the other way. The Supreme Court did not take it up. Therefore, based on what Justice Thomas wrote, it is possible that the court could continue to move in the direction of pursuing cases with respect to same-sex marriage, the right to contraception, etc. Because Justice Alito, in his opinion, ultimately determined that because there is no specific reference, in fact, to abortion in the U.S. Constitution, and he determined, as did the rest of the majority, that there is no implicit protection in the 14th Amendment based on a right to privacy or due process, that therefore Roe v. Wade should be overturned. That certainly bears watching with respect to other potential cases.